Hey, what's up, artificers? My name is Raphael, more commonly known as Kiwi, and today we'll be doing an in-depth review of revealed packs decks. In this episode, we'll be focusing on blue-black, the Aggro Deck. For the heroes in the Aggro Deck, we've got Jamoy the Wise, Sorlakan, Necrophos, Zeus, and the Crystal Maiden. My favorite by far is Zeus. I'll explain to you why in just a moment, but we'll have to talk about Jamoy the Wise because he is the fuel to the fire. He is the activator for this deck, and he lets you draw a card as an active ability. You see, Wisdom of the Elders is what is going to make sure that you never run out of steam, and I believe that Jamoy by himself makes this strategy work because you will always have something to play on your turn, which is extremely impressive and important for an aggro deck to do. Make sure you keep him a little bit off on the side in one lane that is not particularly being attacked or anything like that, so you can keep abusing that active. Or try to protect him with other heroes just to make sure he doesn't die, because his active ability is probably going to be one of the most important in the deck overall. Second, we've got the bread and butter of your deck, Sorlakan. She's big, she hurts, and she's there to kill towers. So she's got 8 attack, and that gets buffed with tremendous 12 attack when she's attacking a tower. In 4 turns, she can slap down a turret by herself. That is quite good, and you're going to want to focus your attention around her. So try to keep her lane empty of creeps. Make sure that if there is another hero in her lane, that you have someone else to deal with him, or that you're going to keep destroying those heroes via other means, just to make sure that she can actually attack the tower directly as much as possible. Next, we've got Necrophos. He's kind of your backup plan. He's kind of like your defensive-ish hero in this deck, and I say that because you want to have him in a lane that is getting attacked, and you want to clear the board of your opponent's minions for him to grow, because every time something dies in his lane, an enemy dies in his lane, he's going to gain some extra health. So he's going to gradually become harder and harder to kill. If you slap some armor onto him or something like that, he's going to become a force to reckon with, and later in the game could actually be doing a crap ton of damage, and I'm not even kidding there. Zeus, my boy Zeus, 3/7, so his stats are not real impressive, but his ability, oh boy, his ability. Every single time you play a blue spell, he deals 1 damage to all enemy neighbors. And it can't be negated by armor, because it's piercing damage. So, well, your deck has a lot of cheap blue spells in it. And that can clear a board in a matter of a couple seconds. You snap your fingers, everything's gone, and then you can go in, slap your opponent's tower with Sorlakan, and win the game. And that's basically what I meant earlier by protecting Sorlakan. By protecting, I mean making sure she's got the field empty, so that way she can go straight at the tower, because she knows that the face is the place, or the tower's the place. I'm not really playing the right game, am I? And then finally, we've got Crystal Maiden. She lets you gain tempo. She is the squishiest of all heroes in the deck. However, her ability, Arcane Aura, lets you restore 2 mana when you play a spell in each lane. So whenever you play a spell in lane 1, you're going to restore 2 of that mana, which lets you play some more cards. So for example, on turn 1, you could play Better Late Than Never, regain 2 mana, and then use a strafing run, for example. So you've got an extra minion, and then you attack your opponent, and the lane is already clear of all of that gross. Uh, what was I saying? So Crystal Maiden basically gives you mana back for playing things. So that's going to give you tempo. And everyone knows that by gaining tempo, your opponent becomes reactive, and they have to deal with all of the threats that you put on the board. And she can actually do that in every lane on the board. She doesn't have to specifically focus a lane. I'm saying nonsense. Crystal Maiden, probably one of the most broken heroes in this game at the moment, not as far as stats goes, but as far as the ability goes, because she literally refunds you up to 6 mana per turn. That's a lot of mana. And what can you do with that mana? Well, you can gain tempo and make sure that your opponent doesn't have a chance to retaliate, which is why her stats are so cheap, or so low, right? Fuck. Finally, Crystal Maiden. She is squishy, to say the least. Her stats are terrible. She's technically just a glorified minion as far as as far as those stats go. She's got 1 extra health. No, I said minion again. I can't. Crystal Maiden. She's probably one of the strongest heroes in the game. Not as far as stats goes, because she's literally just a glorified creep with 2/5. But her ability, oh boy, her ability, Arcane Aura. She literally just lets you refund 6 mana per turn if she doesn't die, right? So you play a card costs mana. If it was the first card that you played, she restored 2 of that mana in that lane, and then you can play something else. And then next lane comes, play a card, get refunded, play another card. So extremely early in the game, she's going to let you take control of the board, and your goal after that is going to make sure that it stays like that. If she is left unchecked, she can probably win you the game by herself with all of those mana refunds. Alright, so now that your heroes have been deployed, you're going to want to bring in some troops to help them out in their task of destroying that enemy tower as fast as possible. One of those troops is going to be Disciple of Nevermore, a 3 mana 4/4, pretty good stats, that gives your other allies +2 attack and -2 armor. That means that it dies to almost anything. It dies to 2 damage. And what does 2 damage, you say? Grazing Shot, Strafing Run. It's probably going to get cleaved down by other things. So I think that this can be a tricky card to play, but if you play it right, it can lay waste on your opponents. My idea about playing Disciple of Nevermore is you wait until your opponent passes on a lane that has creeps in it, and then you're going to put it down right after they passed, and then everything is going to do more damage. It is better if it is played in a lane that is not opposed, so that way not everything gets completely destroyed, but it can make for some pretty effective trades. If your opponent's got a big, big, healthy, chunky hero sitting there at, I don't know, 6 health, and then you just put that down, have some of your creeps trade into it and kill it. You gain some more gold, they don't. There's multiple ways to play this, and I feel like it can be pretty darn interesting. We've also got Untested Grunt, 2 mana 4/2. Nothing else to say about it, apart from the fact that you just put that in an empty lane, and he just starts smashing that tower with his big hammer. It's pretty nice. We also have got a Gloaty Vandal. That card is one of the first play effects that we've seen. It's literally Battle Cry, and it deals 4 damage to an enemy tower. That can help you finish those towers. It can also help you bypass some big heroes that are, big, bulky, burly heroes that are standing guard against your army of small creeps, slowly dying every turn. You could just deal direct damage to that tower, which is pretty nice. We do not have any more troops per se, or creeps are gonna be the bulk of our army, but you can actually bulk up that army by playing 2 other cards. One being the Better Late Than Never, which lets you put a creep in any lane that you want, and also Dimension Portal, which is absolutely beautiful. For 4 mana, lets you summon 3 melee creeps. That is also quite nice. They are going to be summoned in the lane that you play it, but it's a lot of aggression, and if coupled with either the Assault Ladders, which helps you deal 2 damage when attacking a tower, or the Disciple of Nevermore, can actually help you deal a ton of damage to that pesky tower. Other things that are going to support the deck in general are going to be some board clear effects. For that, we have specifically Strafing Run, which deals 2 damage to everything. As we mentioned earlier, that's a cheap spell. Zeus does love his cheap spells, so that's going to be an added 1 damage to everything with Zeus on there as well. You're going to be running Battlefield Control, another cheap blue spell that lets you choose effective trades during a turn, which is quite interesting because you can just make sure that one of your units is going to kill a much bigger unit. For example, something that has 1 health and you don't want one of your heroes to trade into it. Instead, you'll just choose a melee creep, put it right in front of it, and make sure that the creep takes it instead. So, if your Sorla Khan was gonna die, well, she's not anymore. You just put something else in front of the other hero, and you slap that 12 damage on the tower. That can be pretty interesting. Conflagration is one of my favorite spells. You put that on your lane, and every time you get to the action phase, right before the action phase, you're going to do 2 damage to everything. That can be absolutely devastating. You've got 3 of those in the deck. Well, guess what? If you play all 3, your opponent is going to get dealt 6 damage to everything on that lane. It guarantees that that lane's going to stay empty for as long as possible. Now, once the lane is destroyed, you're most likely going to want to stay in that lane and go for the Ancient instead, because you spent so many resources in that lane, but it's still a good board clear overall. I really like the idea behind that. We also have Thunder God's Wrath, deal 4 piercing damage to all heroes in every lane, so just deal 20 damage outright. That can be pretty devastating to your opponent's troops. And of course, the Cannon, which every turn lets you deal 4 piercing damage to any unit in any lane. So you can kill basically anything that's left down to die at 4 health. You can just make sure that your opponent does not want to give you heroes for free. So he's going to try to heal them and perhaps waste some gold and some resources on keeping them alive, or he's just going to waste them. And then finally, we have the equipment that we're going to put on our heroes. So we've got that leather armor, which is going to be extremely strong on the Crofus, making sure that he stays really healthy and that he, well, literally never dies. Short sword, 3 gold for +2 attack. You put that on anything, it's going to help you in your goal of dealing as much damage as fast as possible. Some extra health with the Traveler's Cloak, some extra health with the Furline Mantle. I believe you'll want to put that on Sorla Khan, for example, to make sure that she just doesn't get sniped down by single target removal or anything like that. And then, of course, the Keenful Musket, which is pretty interesting as you can snipe down, you can literally just snipe down enemy creeps or whatnot, just like the Steam Cannon, for the cost of 7 gold every 2 turns. So overall, you're just going to focus on aggression as much as possible. I believe that, and I might be wrong there, I believe that you're going to want to put your resources in 2 different lanes. One that is going to be very, very aggressive, and then another one in which you're going to be sort of bruising a little bit. You're going to trade effectively, but you're going to build that pressure over time with a Necrophos, which is going to kind of protect that lane and make sure that you do effective trades and all. And once you're done with the very first tower, once that tower just gets destroyed, you're going to switch all of your resources over to that new lane that was guarded by Necrophos and Zeus, for example, and you're just going to start attacking that second one. There is no reason for you to actually start doing 80 damage to the Ancient. That is just a waste of damage. You want to close that as soon as possible. I think that changing lanes is the most important. So try to keep your conflagration for that second lane. Try to keep your ladders for that second lane. You might need one for the first one, but don't waste everything on that first lane, because you're going to want to pour the rest of your resource on that second lane a little bit later in the game. Or at least that is how I personally see it. I will also be covering the 3 remaining decks in the next upcoming days, as well as playing a lot of Tabletop Simulator, seeing what we can do with those decks against real players, and that will be quite interesting. Everything's going to come up on YouTube, so if you guys are interested in seeing more, make sure to subscribe to the channel. I also just, by the way, I wanted to mention that if we do reach 1,000 subscribers before the beta hits, I'm going to be giving away a beta key to one of you guys. Yeah, that's right. I'm willing to accept the fact that that is going to happen. You guys are cool. The community around this game is insane, and I believe that we can make it in a couple weeks. That is pretty much it for me today. Thank you everyone for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you tomorrow for Econ Ramp. Bye bye.